John, or other people might know you as JVR affectionately. Welcome to Legal Practice Intelligence.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too. It's been, we've known each other quite a while, haven't we?
Oh, well, mate, it's going back when I was still in New Zealand, and that's probably 5 years ago.
Gosh, I tell you what, and I guess now the folks at Fileman are actually lucky enough to have you lead the charge on sales, which is fantastic.
Mate, it's exciting times. When I was at Lexis, it was interesting to see how lawyers and barristers are slowly getting on board this digital transformation journey. And with Fileman, it's interesting to see how we can actually help them accelerate it, because everyone is talking about a paper light or a paperless environment post-COVID. But BC, as I call it, before COVID, it wasn't the topic to go to because everyone was in the office. But the moment they started working from home, they sort of realized we need to do this in a better and a more efficient way. So it's interesting to be at this end of the conversation and helping law firms to understand how to transition now and actually do it and not just talking about it.
Yeah, you're actually an ex-legal practitioner.
Yes, when I practiced law many moons ago, I wish I had these cool tools which they are using today. For example, some of the stuff that we see nowadays that you can just pop out on your tablet, you can easily find things on the go, or as you make submissions, you can actually do it in real time and collaborate with the other side, even with the judge in real time, and using e-courts as another way of actually interacting from anywhere. You don't have to wait for the parties to be in country and in the same room. You can now have a mediation or an arbitration from anywhere. And how cool is that? Because 10 years ago, we haven't thought of this.
I mean, I guess the costs in terms of actually performing, or I guess the cost of carrying out the law and the cost of legal process itself is actually, I guess what it does, it actually, having things paper light or paperless means the costs have been reduced and means access to legal processes is much easier.
Yeah, there's nothing like a free lunch, is there? And people soon realize that all of a sudden, all these things cost money. And this is what I love about the Fileman value proposition, because law firms get all the benefit, but none of the cost, because they can actually disperse the cost of the service back to the client. Because in the end of the day, it is the client's data that needs protected, either on a physical form, you put in your closed files in a box and you maybe take it to a storage unit or a shed on a farm and you put it in there, but there's a cost associated with that, but it's to the benefit of your clients. And lawyers like the idea of having all the protection and the compliance, but none of the cost.
Yeah, and I guess as well with the interesting thing is with the labour market the way it is right now in terms of actually getting talent. I mean, you're seeing that teams span across the globe, and you know, it might be even some of the smaller firms. You've got people that are working remotely, people that have actually gone off being digital nomads. There's all sorts of people working around the place, and accessing those files is actually a key thing.
And that's exactly the benefit they will be getting by getting on board the digital transformation. Because traditionally, these are the toys the big boys had access to. So you had to be a top tier firm with an army of people that can help you digitize your files and to get it into the e-discovery and the forensic side of things. But nowadays, with technology, it doesn't matter if you're not a large firm, anyone can now have it. And particularly if you have a service where that cost is actually dispersed back to the client, mate, you've got all the benefits of doing your forensic searching, your e-discovery, and having the tools to compile your court bundles and documents on the fly without to outsource it to third parties. And that is the real efficiency and cost saving. And clients love it. And what I like about it as a practitioner, it makes the relationship between the lawyer and the client very sticky, because as a client, I'm going to go back to the law firm where I had that service where I could just electronically supply things or do things myself online, or when I needed something, I could go to a portal and just access it and have it at my fingertips, because it's so annoying for a lawyer to be on the phone every 5 minutes because client X needs something or client X wants something done now. If they can just have access to your law firm's portal and they can do it themselves, how cool is that?
I mean, trust deeds and other documents like trust deeds, contracts, wills, those kinds of things are documents that people need to pull from time to time from lawyers.
But this is the catch-22. Many lawyers think the moment you put things in a scanner and you put it in a PDF, it will be good for 100 years. And we discover that they don't understand you need to put it in the right format. I mean, back in the early 90s, we had Word 93. And if you've typed a Word document back in 1993 and you're trying to open it today, you're going to get gobbledygook. It's going to be all mumble jumble. It's not going to make sense. And we are educating the market to make sure that when they do scan things, they need to put it in an ISO compliant format. And the best ISO standard is 19002. That gives you what we call the peace of mind that that document, for example, a will or a prenup, will be able to open 50, 60 years from today without worrying that a digital or e-signature will be missing, because that's the last thing you need, that you've destroyed the original because you've gone paper light, you've kept the digital copy, and then 60 years later when there's a dispute or you need to access it, you just get gobbledygook on your screen. And that's the exciting thing, that there's also a bit of an education that the market needs to realize, yes, it's cool to put things through a scanner, but you need to preserve it in the right ISO standard. So in the future, you'll be able to open it.
Yep. John, yeah. So it's actually interesting that you talk about the cost of storage, and I guess the inconvenience of storage. I guess what you've got is I'm a suburban law firm or a high street law firm. And what actually happens is, I mean, I've got stuff put everywhere. I've got stuff on my systems. I've got stuff that's in the scanners. I've got stuff that's, in the cloud, some stuff that's stored offsite. Do I need to be worried? I mean, what do I do? If I'm in a position where I've got things everywhere, how do I start to get things right?
That's a good question, because no one wants to lie awake at night worrying about work. So my advice would be very simple. You need to do a bit of stock take about where are the risks, and you need to mitigate those risks. And traditionally, you will understand that paper is seen as a risk that can catch fire, for example. So you need to make sure that your paper is protected if you're going to store physical files, and you put it in the right environmental controls. And that's why we have partnered with a global leader when it comes to physical storage, making sure that the files are stored at the right temperature, the right environment and climate, so it doesn't get moldy, and make sure that actually the file can last the 7 years in storage, but even be in safe custody when it goes to 50, 60 years, that the physical file will be in nick condition, so that you can have it easily retrievable. And that's where our system is so powerful, to give lawyers access to their physical files when they need it, and it comes back to them via a PDF. Or if they ever need the physical file back, it comes back in the box to their doorstep, and it doesn't cost them a cent except for the courier charge. But on top of that, so many lawyers are thinking about just scanning everything as it comes in. They put it in their multifunctional device, and they scan it and they scan it and they store it somewhere on a hard drive. The risk there is hard drives do fail. And if we look at the statistics done over hundreds of hard drives over tens of years, you'll see that the average hard drive lasts no more than 6.5 years, which means you need to have redundancies, which means that you always have to have what I call the 3-2-1 backup strategy, that your data needs to be across 3 different media. So for example, you have your original paper files, you put your files on a hard drive, and perhaps you want to put it on the cloud. So 3 different opportunities. And then they say you also need to make sure that there are 2 ways to access it. So either you have the physical file somewhere you can access it, or you have it offsite and where you have it on the cloud. Or, as I say, give it to us. We'll keep it secure in a physical storage solution, because that's the one avenue that you can then use paper. And the best thing is you can't ransom paper. So your paper will always be your default copy. And if you ever lose your data, we can help you bring back those paper files in the digital format. The third thing to consider is if you destroyed all your paper records and you've gone completely digital, have you stored those digital files in the right format? You can imagine back in the 90s when we created documents in Word or in Lotus. Remember Lotus when you had Lotus?
Yeah.
You won't be able to open those documents because technology has changed, the file format and structure has changed. So if you have saved it as, let's call it a PDF, what guarantees do you have that that file will be able to open in 50 or 60 years? So we are educating the market all around the ISO 19002 standard, where you need to preserve your files in a specific way, which include the capturing of any electronic or digital signatures. You need to put an encryption around it to ensure that it won't be tampered with. Lawyers love this stuff. That is the chain of custody type of things that you need to put in place for your digital files, like you would do for your physical files. The rules are still the same, whether it's a physical paper file or a digital file. You need to put the same precautions and measures around it to make sure that it will be able to be accessible in 7, 50 or 60 years times. And that's all those type of risk mitigations we bring to the table, and we just help lawyers to get their heads around those tricky things that they need to consider when they want to go paperless or paper light.
So what kind of firms, what sort of size firms are you working with, I guess, primarily? What's your target
sorts.
market?
So you can go top of town. They have actually more considerations because they will have branches not only in country but in other jurisdictions. And you need to have your head around all the compliance around how long do I need to keep a file. And if you don't have policies that can help you manage and track that, you may actually be opening up yourself to more risk. Because why would you like to keep a file for more than 7 years if you don't have to?
That's
Or
right.
in some cases, is it better to strip out some of the personal identifiable information in a way that I can still retain the IP? Because as lawyers, we like to work off templates. And you can think, 6 years ago, I did an interesting clause involving a parrot and a dog in a prenup, and I want to copy and paste that, and I quickly need to find it. In paper, it's going to be tricky because you may know that there was a file back in the day, but when it's digital, it will be easy to find it and to reuse it in a scenario. But you don't want to keep all the other information in there that are risky, because lawyers don't realize it because they are prime targets for cyber criminals. Think about it. They collect passport information. They collect physical addresses and telephone numbers. They also create things like AML compliance where they have licensing information. So all that is a treasure trove for a cyber criminal, and they need to protect that. And if you don't need to have that data on file or on record, we help you with our tools to scrub it out. So you still retain all the IP you have put into the drafting of documents, but not the risk of having those identifiable information on file because it is no longer there. And then how good is that? You can access your files from anywhere and use the IP that you have created over the years, and it will be an awesome clause bank that you can just pull things into contracts. And I can imagine drafting will be an interesting aspect to consider when you are embracing digital transformation.
And what's it cost and how long does it take?
Well, this is the thing. Lawyers don't realize that they can disperse many of these elements as part of cost recovery. And because of our integration with their practice management system, it means when a file gets opened, that disbursement goes straight onto the client's ledger. And we are very customizable. We work with the law firms to determine which matter types they have and how they want to price it. You can imagine if you do a legal aid case, there's not a lot you can disperse and you probably want a different rate. Or if you do something that is of higher volume or higher value, like commercial matters where you can charge more, you can actually do that. And we work with the law firms to recover it. Our standard rack rate is $59 per matter. And that's a one fee to cover all the compliance for 7 years.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is amazing. Seriously. Yeah, wow. That's definitely an investment, that's for sure. And how long does it take to do, to get this thing in place?
Well, with our integrations, we can just turn on the switch and, so to speak, and you'll be set up according to your practice management system to get up and running. And then it depends on the level of service. Some firms don't want any paper files, they just everything scanned, and we can do that. We can literally take all the paper files and we can digitize it, and it will be on the portal for them to access. Some law firms, and this is also my recommendation, they keep their paper because it's not going to cost them anything to store it because it's part of the service. And then when they need to access the file, whether it's physical or digital, they will have it at their fingertips. And then on top of that, there's other services we can do. For example, if they need court bundling or court ready files that they can prepare for litigation or mediation or other use cases, whether you do commercial leases or property transactions. We have all sorts of tools that can really help them to compile documents in a very structured and easy way and preserve it in an ISO 19002 format.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like a pretty amazing, easy to use system, John. I mean, what's the catch?
That's exactly what lawyers ask me all the time, because it's too good to be true. And what they don't realize is we are a global company that gets the benefit of having a client base that spans thousands of firms. So as an individual firm, you won't be able to bargain with storage providers or the digitization companies to get the scale we can. And that economy of scale provides our clients with the benefit, and because they're dispersing it back to their clients, none of the cost.
Brilliant. So if people want to find out more, where would they go?
They can follow us on the social media channels, or they can look at the Legal Practice Intelligence. We are one of the sponsors there, but our website is probably the first port of call where they can find more information on Fileman and also our Bundle Pro solution. And then, of course, they can also check in with their practice management system. So, for example, if they're using Leap or Practice Evolve or Lexis Affinity, you will be able to find us on their marketplace. So it's an easy conversation to get us switched on.
Fantastic. Well, John, look, thank you. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for your time today. Actually, very, very informative, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the successes around the world.
Thank you, Dave. I'm off to the UK for a couple of weeks. We've got some exciting new members to the team as we are growing and expanding globally. And then when I'm back, I'm also off to New Zealand. We're going to be there for the launch of our new product into the New Zealand market. So exciting times ahead.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much.